Welcome to the Luna Holistic Podcast. I'm your host, Geneva Robbins, and every month on this podcast, we'll talk about Reiki, as well as answering your questions on all things spiritual. We are gratefully located in Calgary in Treaty 7 territory. Thank you all and welcome to the show. Hello and welcome to the Luna Holistic Podcast. My name is Geneva Robbins, and in this episode, we are going to talk about how you can shine your light. This is a big topic. It seems to come up over and over again with clients and students about how sometimes we have this great power, light, creativity inside of us, and we just dim it all right down. And there can be a real fear of shining your light and being seen and bringing the best of yourself to your projects, your work, your life in all kinds of capacities. So this episode is all about moving through that little layer of fear, that obstacle for you to shine and be completely yourself. And I'll share some tips and strategies of how I do that in my work. So I'll just share what I do, and maybe it could help you. So we'll start with a little collective breath of gratitude, a little mini meditation. To do that, if you're driving, keep your eyes open. If not, you can gently close your eyes. Just take a big sigh of relief, connecting into the earth below you, letting everything come to rest. Just take a big sigh of relief, some settling breaths, noticing the energy within the earth below you. Stretch your awareness out to the land that surrounds you, noticing all of the plants and animals, the trees, the air, the wind and water. Just allowing your energy to connect with the energy of life and send a wave of gratitude into the earth, into life, and feel life respond. Feel nature respond with gratitude. So every inhale is a breath of gratitude, and every exhale is a breath of gratitude. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Wonderful. Thank you so very much. I always love those little moments just to meditate and connect and ground. It makes such a big difference to just be in that clear, lovely space. There's so much happening in the world, and sometimes what's happening in the collective or in our personal life, we can just feel small. So that, we keep on hunkering down to brace for all of the things that are happening, and everything that happens around us and in our lives might seem really, really big. And sometimes we can feel small, or we can shrink back and sort of turtle in on ourselves to try to protect what is sacred, to protect that sacred light inside. And that's a normal response when we're under threat or danger. Sometimes it is advantageous to hide our light. So if you find that you've been hiding your light and not shining as bright as you know you could, don't worry, because you are in great company. Some of the most brilliant, wonderful people I've ever known in my life have had periods of not shining and not being their full selves. And that comes from a place. And usually it's abuse or fear or being picked on or bullied, this sort of sometimes what happens is we hide ourselves because when we have experiences where we shine and we put ourselves out there, and then people might criticize us or we might get bullied or abused. And sometimes it feels like the brighter we shine, the worse that negative reaction can be. And so, as a way to protect ourselves, we just, live life on this dimmer switch. So we just dial our wattage down to maybe, 10% less than normal, or we live with like 50% of ourselves, or we hide ourselves so much that we don't even remember or recognize ourselves because we're just having to act our way through our lives just to get by. And if you find that you're in that kind of situation, be really, really gentle with yourself, because more harshness doesn't help. So get support and get care and get that support that you need, maybe from a therapist or a helpful friend, or even Reiki can be really great to bring that space for you to be yourself. And because we all need that space to be who we are and to have who we are loved and accepted and appreciated. And one of the things that can happen is that for a while, we might be dimming ourselves because we have to, because we're in harsh conditions and it's a survival mechanism. Sometimes what happens is that we experience that when we're younger and we don't have a lot of agency. We can't leave the situation. We can't, change schools or move across the country because we just don't have that ability. And then we grow and we get agency and money and power, and we are able to leave, and we're not in those circumstances anymore, and we're around nice people and we've learned how to set boundaries, and yet we're still dimming our light. And sometimes this can even be a generational thing. So maybe you didn't personally experience any abuse or belittlement or trauma, but your parents or grandparents did, and they passed on that tendency to, in order to survive, don't shine too bright, don't brag, don't talk about your accomplishments, don't sparkle, because people who sparkle get cut down. And also be kind if you feel like that pattern might be an ancestral or generational one, because you are a descendant of survivors, and that pattern helped your ancestors survive. So be grateful for that. And now it's time to shine. You don't need, if you're in a safe place and you can make yourself safe and your rights are protected, then it's time to bring the fullness of yourself to the world. And why is this so important right now? Because we are in a massive energetic shift and change in our world, in our communities, and personally and individually. There's a wave of change that is bringing good to the surface. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes there's some forces that are pushing on us to accelerate this change, which may not always be comfortable or pleasant. But this change is happening. And the solution is always to bring more light, more kindness, more creativity, more solutions forward. So finding that strength within you to speak up and speak out and bring your brilliance to the world, to bring your creative and crafty ideas more fully into all of our hands. Because when you shine, we all benefit. And when one person shines their light bright, it creates a space where everyone else can shine too. And that's what we all need. That's what really, most people want, is to be fully themselves and to be embraced and accepted. And we can do that. And it's a very internal process as well. So part of that is healing the harm. So doing some of the inner work to clear out any spaces where we need to do that sort of deeper inner healing work to deal with sort of the past. And therapy is really great. Reframing is really great. So, with cognitive behavioral therapy and meditation, positive affirmations, and Reiki all work together. These are all tools that I've used to move past that shrinking myself down and living at a small illumination, usually because when I shine bright, I found that sometimes people didn't like me as much. And I just really wanted to be liked. So I just dimmed myself down in order to get connection. And that never really works for long. This is why we don't want to be doing this as well, because there's costs with living with life at, 50% wattage. If we are only shining half as bright or less than we could, then it means that half your life force energy isn't present within you. You are retracting your energy. And whenever you retract your energy, that has a cost on your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. So we don't want to do any of that, because that leads to all kinds of distress that is unnecessary and makes it even harder for you to shine your light. So the solutions. So this is one of the things that I like to do is Reiki. And this is why I really fell in love with Reiki, is when you're a sensitive person, you can really feel other people's feelings and reactions to you. And if there's any sort of pain or wounding within you, even the slightest little bit of disapproval can just cut you right down. And you'll just stop doing the things that you need to do. And the things that you need to bring to the world, you'll just turn it right off, because as part of our human survival, we want to stay connected to other people. And the more connected we are to other people, the greater chances of surviving to the next generation. So this is all pretty hardwired stuff. And when you're super sensitive, all of that energy can just rocket right through and hit you at your core. So with Reiki, we practice this grounding energetic practice that helps us get rooted into our space so we can hold our ground. And then we also practice with balancing all of the chakras, getting an energy flow going through the body, and then tending to that aura, that space around the body, that light, that layer of light and protection around you. And when that aura space, that energy container is strong and bright, then it basically gives you a buffer between you and other people. And it's basically, you can hold your space or hold your unique energy. It creates a little bit more of a live and let live space where you can shine in that bright, brilliant light, and you can allow other people to have different feelings, different opinions, different energies, and it doesn't impact you in that same way that it might shut you down or suppress how you are bringing yourself or bringing your ideas to the world. So practicing with grounding, practicing with self-healing with tending to your aura. We have a bunch of meditations that help you clear your energy. You can come in for a Reiki session to get that sort of clear and boost, and also be in the presence of somebody who's cheering for you to shine. We need that. We need a community of people who are supporting our rise and supporting you shining, no matter what anybody says. Most of the time, what we're afraid of is the negative comment. And that, I think, is accelerated with sort of the vitriol on social media, and how quickly people can quickly write a really hateful comment without really thinking about it. People can say things that they would never say to you in person, but so those kinds of interactions can really suppress us. So be really cautious and mindful of how much you're interacting with places and spaces where you have an inkling that you might be encountering a lot of criticism and negativity. So that is one way, is just sort of disengage a little bit, or really boost up your energy field before you enter those spaces, and so that you can be in that bright space and really hold the light and shine the light. Often it's really about a shift in your perspective about yourself. So I find reframing the thoughts of how I'm thinking about myself can really make a big difference. So when I am holding myself in a small position, so my shoulders are curled in, I'm, curled up almost in a fetal position, it's hard to get a full breath. It's hard to feel confident when you're all curled up and bundled up in your body. So sometimes just rolling your shoulders back, allowing space for your heart to shine, bringing your spine up into a position of dignity, holding yourself in a confident pose can really flip the experience in your body. And then the other thing is, so there's a physical reframing. So you're literally holding yourself in a position of confidence and security and safety. So if you felt safe to shine, how would you sit? How would you walk? How would you hold your head? How would your breathing change? In some ways, moving your body in that space can shift your experience almost immediately. And this is sort of tied in with the work of Amy Cuddy and the power poses. It's phenomenal. Just try it out, practice it. It really can shift how you're feeling, and it can shift your energy almost instantly. And if you tie that shift in body position with a reframe, so instead of thinking of yourself as small or constantly reviewing what other people are thinking and saying, and instead, in some ways, dropping the external and going instead into your core, into your essence, dropping into your heart space or your soul space, going inward and looking for that bright spark of light, your internal pilot light, and as a visualization, seeing that light shining and expanding, visualizing that light getting brighter and filling your whole body, filling up your whole body, shining out through the surface of your skin, shining through your aura, and then practicing in this meditation to actually increase how bright that light is and how big that light is, and keep expanding. So imagine that you are the sun, and you just keep expanding that light until you feel a pressure drop. Because when we're in our full bright illumination, what we feel is relief. We feel calm. We feel at ease. It feels like there's this perfect balance of coziness and expansion. Most of the time, we're holding ourselves too small, and it takes an enormous amount of energy to hold ourselves in that dimmed position. Instead, if you hold yourself in that safe to shine, being your full bright shiny self, what you often will feel after you move through a few little layers of vulnerability is you feel confident, you feel powerful, and you feel connected to something much bigger than yourself. And when you're connected to that radiant essence inside of you, and you're allowing that energy to have the space that it needs to be expressed in the world, that's when you feel aligned. That's when you feel like you can do anything. That soulful part of us is unafraid. That eternal nature inside of us, the Buddha nature, that enlightened and awakened self that lives within everybody, that spark of light is not afraid of the critic. It's not afraid to share. It's not afraid to be radiant and sparkle and be uniquely yourself. You're not afraid to stand out. You're not afraid to create. You just make and share and shine with ease and joyfulness and with a spirit of generosity. It flows, and it's not about being pushy or pushing your light out there. It's just about being yourself. And you are that big. So many times people have these quite enormous dreams, or they have this idea of what they want to create or make, or where they feel like their purpose lies, or where they feel like they can have greater impact on issues that matter and are meaningful. And when we are thinking too small, we'll feel like we're tiny and the thing that we want to make is so big. And we'll feel that bigness, but we'll feel small in comparison to what we want to work on. But I suggest this reframe that what if you're actually equal to the task ahead of you? What if actually you're bigger than what you are making? What if you're actually so big that, say, that thing that you're making could have a worldwide positive impact? So it's as big as the world. So when you put your hands on it, it's like putting your hands on the earth. It appears so enormous you can't even see it. But if you are bigger than that, imagine it being able to be held in your hands like a little ball of light. And when you shift your perspective in that way, and in some ways rise to the occasion, to rise to your fullness, to shine with everything you are, then whatever problems that worried mind kicked up, or the fears or the risks and the potential losses, and what if this person doesn't like me anymore, or what if I stop getting invited to dinner, or what if I make people uncomfortable, all of those things pale. They just sort of drop right away, because in some ways there's a kind of acknowledgement of like, yeah, those things could happen. But when you put it in that big context, it's like the benefit of you creating, making, and sharing something that could have a big impact on maybe one person's life or many people's lives, or be something that creates just a joyful expansion through your own life and your own family and community, that's worth doing, no matter what kind of criticism gets thrown at you. The other thing is that if you are living dimmed down, it doesn't stop the criticism. It doesn't stop it at all. People who like to complain will continue complaining. So you'll just give them more things that they love to do, which is complain about things. So in some ways, I really believe in what Brene Brown says with, the critics don't count, the critics don't matter, because they're always going to be there. They're always going to be cranky. They'll complain about your very best work, but you're not there for them. And, the options are you live life dimmed down and you don't make your best stuff, or you don't share your best work with the world. You don't do and say the things that you feel inspired that could, in a way that could make your life or the lives of people around you a little bit brighter and easier and lighter. If you live dimmed down, you don't do those things and you still get criticized. And when you get criticized and you only got, half of your energy available, you have, half of that stuff is getting in. When you're living in that fully illuminated space, there's no space for that negative energy to come into your sphere. It's not that you're not aware of it, but it just doesn't penetrate. It just doesn't stick to you. You can kindly see it for what it is. You can carefully look at it and review it, and with the curiosity of like, well, maybe if they had a point and it could make the work better, then maybe I'll take it in, and maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just continue doing what I'm doing because that aligns with me and that's the way I want to do it. And so when you are in that full light, I find that if you do encounter any negativity, you greet it with a little bit of humor, good humor and compassion. And for me, I find when I'm in that space of light, I'm also better able to genuinely look at comments and concerns. I'm not taking it on or taking it personally. I'm more willing to explore, how could I make the work better? How could I improve? Maybe this is something that I want to explore, or I can understand that that's where that person's coming from. And if they really like that, they can make their own. What's most important is that you make yours in the way that is the most joyful and pleasing for you. When you are engaged in creative, expansive, ingenious work where you're creating and making and inventing, that is the spark of life. That brings a richness and a beauty to your own life in a way that enhances your life. And I feel like when we're engaged in bringing whatever curiosity lives within us, whatever joyful experience from whatever it may be, from working on crafty projects to writing books to singing your songs to putting yourself out there in your workplace, bringing your intelligent ideas forward, speaking up when you need to speak up. Those things, they might seem small when you look at them individually. They may not seem like it makes a big difference, but it can create a very powerful ripple of positivity. And that's really what we all need. We all need and want that lightness, that joy, that creative flow. and bringing that joyfulness forward and that compassion and kindness and wisdom and grace. When you bring your essence forward, there's more for everyone. And there's no competition in this. It's all about flourishing. It's all about diversity. We need every voice. We need every person's light. We need you, what you're making. So abandon any ideas that it's all been done and that book has been written and that idea has already been spoken. It hasn't been brought forward by you. And it's really important that you make your own in your own way. And that is, I find, is the spark of life. And you just never will know how much of an impact that has on people. Often when we send information or energy out into the world, you might not always get an instant reply or instant response. But that doesn't mean that it's not having a really big impact on people's lives. So keep shining, keep being in that sparkly, radiant space. I'll fill the show notes full of meditations and tools and resources that will help you shine and be in that bright, radiant space. If you want some support with this, getting Reiki is really great, but also learning Reiki is fantastic. We have some courses coming up. Every season, we have new courses starting. You can join in person in Calgary, or you can also take classes online. It's all live in the moment, not pre-recorded courses. And we've had people from all over the world take the courses and apply that Reiki energy and that practice into their self-healing and into their own well-being. So check it all out. It's all on our website, lunaholistic.com. And until next time, shine bright, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us on the Luna Holistic podcast. We're so grateful that you are here. If you've got a question, we'd love to hear from you. Go to lunaholistic.com/podcast and we'll answer you in an upcoming episode. Be sure to subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And also please rate, because you never know where your little 5 stars will go to shine light into somebody's heart today. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.